Welcome to the Battlefield Show. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. I'm a little under the weather, so apologies for the sound of my voice and the blocked nose, but other than that, I'm doing well, and I'm very, very intrigued about this episode, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one because we are talking about some hardcore Battlefield community gossip and drama and breaking it down all juicy like. So let's jump right in. We were talking about this right before we started recording, and it's been a while since we've had some real juicy stuff like this when it comes to the Battlefield community. There's always the drama with like updates and stuff, but this is something entirely different. Like,
when it's on like I wouldn't say it's on a personal level, but it involves people more than just like an update or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely got that extra edge to it, I think, because usually if it's just an update, everyone's just like, oh, this sucks. That's about it. But with this, it's like there's actual people involved, and it's definitely.
And there's two cases within the same week.
Yeah, that's the part that's mental. If it was just one, I would have just brushed. Because, for example, with the Enders stuff that happened first, I was like, oh, that's like pretty interesting, but I just kind of brushed it off. But then the Ghost stuff happened, and I'm like, wow, like what? This is all happening in like 3 days of each other. Like, man, it was a turbulent week, to say the very least.
Yeah. So if you don't know, we're talking about two very controversial decisions that were made behind the scenes at DICE that became very visible very quickly. The first was the banning of Enders, who is a somewhat controversial figure in the Battlefield creator space. He's more a recent up-and-comer when it comes to creating content in Battlefield 2042. He streams the game, he creates content about it, and talks about it online on social media. And he got a 7-day ban recently. And this is where it gets very fascinating. He didn't necessarily do anything except for what he always does, which is criticize Battlefield. Which I think you need to have. Yeah. You need to have people in the community that love the game, that hate the game, and the people in the middle that cover both sides of it, to get good, honest feedback and criticism when it comes to an online community. And recently, we'll get into this even further when we get further into the other case of this, but they did a resharing of the Battlefield 2042 guidelines when it comes to how they expect people to act in the community. You read through all of that, okay, it's like, okay, no slander, don't be racist, don't be stupid, don't be mean, all of that kind of stuff. If you look at what Enders did, there's nothing in there that actively says he broke the rules, as far as I can see.
Yeah, it's a hard one. It's hard to know for sure because they haven't officially sort of said why.
Yeah.
Like, we're only going off what he has said as to why he thinks he was banned. There may be other reasons, but it's just because they haven't said, we don't know, so we can only actually really go off what he's saying because that's the only perspective we can really get.
Yeah.
And so maybe he has broken a rule, but we haven't been shown what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird thing for me is more that not so much. I do think that the way Enders goes about some of his content, or more his opinions, is maybe not the best way to do it. Is in that he's very
opinionated and very strongly held opinions.
Yeah, and it's not so much just the fact that he's criticizing; it's more like the way he puts it across. It actually can come across as a very like rude towards the developers and stuff. I've heard him say some stuff that I personally just wouldn't say to a developer because it's just not nice stuff. So, in a sense, I can see kind of where they're coming from. But the thing that is the issue for me is that his game account was banned when he didn't do it in game.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that for me is like, how is that? If they needed to block him on Twitter because he said something on Twitter, go for your life. Like that's that is like within the rules, I guess you would say.
Yeah, but they can't necessarily block him. Like, they could block his account from quote tweeting and interacting with the official Battlefield community posts, and each of the developers can individually block him. But like you said, all of the things that they have issues with were outside of the game. He wasn't like adding the devs in the gameplay.
Yeah.
He doesn't even use voice over IP or game chat.
Yeah, so that's the part that mostly confuses me. Because, for example, the stuff that he has said to developers, if he said that in the game chat, and then he got banned, I think I'd be like, yeah, okay, like fair enough. Cause
yeah, you're playing with fire there, buddy.
Yeah, like he. This is not me talking about him on a personal level because I don't know the guy. I'll just talk about the way that he approaches things. I do think he needs to like just chill a little bit. I'm not talking about him criticizing the game. Go for your life. It's more just the way that you put it across.
Yeah, very aggressive and very direct, which some people appreciate, some people don't. I can understand you as a dev feeling attacked by what he says, which is definitely fair. But when you look at it from like a third party perspective, he's not breaking any of the rules of Battlefield to get him banned from the game.
Yeah. And that there is the part that I'm very confused about in that. For example, he was also kicked from the Battlefield Discord. For that, like, that's okay because that's not his game account. That type of thing, I'm like, okay, like, whatever. That's fair. But when you're banning someone's in-game account for something they said on YouTube, that to me is a little bit odd because that just means, like, at any point, if I just made like a negative video on the game, my account could be banned. Like, that's kind of dumb. That to me just isn't, I don't know. And like I said, unless they have actually got other reasons, maybe he did say something in game. I don't know. I don't watch his every move, so I'm not sure. But yeah, the fact that they haven't clarified it, which to be fair, I don't think that they need to either, because like it'd be weird for the official Battlefield channels, unless it was a CM that said it. But like, it'd be weird for the official Battlefield channels to be saying, oh, this is why we banned Enders. Like, that's just a weird thing to talk about.
But I think they kind of need to do that because of, and we'll get into this in just a little bit, their perception and how fragile they feel their interaction and the goodwill with the community is. It kind of needs to be that kind of direct discussion. Otherwise,
I think like the CMs need to say something, whether it's even just like in the Discord server or something. Like, maybe not so much as because like tweeting it feels weird. I think that's a weird thing. If imagine just Kevin just tweeted like, so guys, we banned Enders because blah blah blah. That's a weird tweet, I feel. Whereas if it's in the Discord, it's like more in response to people, because I'm sure people are asking about it in there. But I do agree that like any situation like that, clarification is always a good thing, and because they're copping it a bit of flack for it, I don't see why they wouldn't do that. If it was me, if they have an actual reason, like if you're innocent on something, then you usually prove yourself innocent. So if they actually have legitimate reason to ban him, you'd think they would say it. That's why I'm confused, because it seems like they don't have a legitimate reason.
Otherwise, they said, hey, he did this, and that's why we banned him.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a messy situation, and it's more just like the way that it's been approached. I don't think either side is completely innocent, because like I said, I do think the way that Enders approaches some of these situations is maybe not, and he's admitted that. I watched his videos and he's pretty much said he's not going to change who he is as a person, but when he's talking about like serious topics and stuff, he maybe needs to get his points across a bit differently.
Well, he's playing a character online as much as he is anything. Like, I feel like when you're in, you cannot be that negative towards something and not, I mean, some people are, but I feel like a lot of it is for the cloud.
Yeah, I feel like if I said the things about this game that he does, I just simply wouldn't play it. I would just be like, I don't like this game, man. I'm going to go play something else. So either there are some people who, sure, like he might just genuinely hate it and still play it for some reason. I don't know, but I do think that it's like he knows that works for him, and not saying he's like fake or something. I'm sure he does have those opinions, but I definitely think most people on YouTube sort of play into their role, I guess. Like, everyone has some level of a character that they're playing, even if it's very minimal, I should say. Everyone's doing that. So yeah, I don't know. That alone was a weird situation. The second part we'll get into for me is more weird.
Yeah. And let's just jump into it, man. The next thing was Ghost Gaming, who has been a content creator for 10 years?
Yeah, I think so.
Been a big part of the community, has been covering the game in various ways, and became part of the creator program, the partner program. And honestly, from the outside, the partner program has been, a lot of the time, it's I know someone who's in the group, and then they add me here. It seems a lot like that. Obviously, they have strategies and that kind of stuff, but I know certain people in there that do not have if I'm looking at it from a strategic business standpoint, they don't necessarily have a reason to be there, but are weird, in there anyway.
Yeah, very weird dynamic.
And it's their program. They can run it however they want to. But when you look at stuff like this, it's very evident in how they perceive and approach this project, which is Ghost Gaming was there. He was in it. He is a beloved part. He's like honestly one of the nicest content creators in Battlefield.
Yeah, he's like one of the... Every time you watch a video of his, he's just a genuine person, just a nice guy. He doesn't clickbait, he doesn't do anything, he just makes news videos. And yeah, so it's a bit of a shame, I think. I do have like mixed opinions on it, and I guess we'll get into that, but it's definitely, the whole thing is just a shame. Like, it's just a bit of a mess that I don't think either side wants it to be in, really, but
yeah,
this is where we are at this point.
So what happened? What's the string of events that brings us to today? So
it all started with the announcement of like the squad management changes and stuff, and there was a tweet from, I think, the official Battlefield account, or it might have been one of the community managers, that showed a little clip of like kind of showing off the squad system.
Yeah.
And it said something in there about the kick and ban feature, yet they have said that isn't coming, and people just wanted clarification of like, why was it in the video, but it's not coming.
It was there for like a solid second or something like that. Like, you could clearly see that's what it was.
Yeah. And so in the Creator Network Discord, that's usually where like the creators will just ask those questions because they have a more direct line of communication with the devs. So a lot of those questions, that's pretty much what the entire Discord, the whole Discord is like, not just Battlefield, it's like everyone from EA, but
yeah,
in the Battlefield channels, that's what gets talked about. It's like, oh, so we saw you're implementing this, like, what is this part, or what's that part? Like, that's generally the discussions that go on in there. And so Ghost asked for a bit of, or actually, I don't even think it was Ghost. I think someone else asked for clarification on that, and Ghost pretty much said, like, I would love to hear, a bit of clarity on that too. Stratford then replied with what happened, which is in the screenshot that I linked you, or the Twitter thread.
Yeah,
that is the screenshot. From there, that was then obviously screenshot and put into Ghost's video, which is where he went wrong, because that is, people have had their opinions on it, but that is unfortunately the wrong thing to do. The whole server's under NDA, so you're not allowed to. We're allowed to mention it. We're not allowed to talk about anything in there. We've signed an NDA to get into the whole program, not even just the Discord, but the whole program. And so you're not allowed to share things in there, which is obviously, that's where this is kind of stemmed from, that he technically, as small of a bit of information as it is, it's not like a big breaking news type of thing. Technically, he has leaked information from an NDA'd server. So that I can see
even
where they're
though it
coming
was
from.
Publicly spoken about beforehand, but it was shown in a bigger light than it was previously.
Yeah, so it was a topic that had been talked about online already, and then it was just like clarified internally, which I also don't agree with that from
Yeah.
their side. Where
It's
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 like,
clear they knew that people would be upset and they're trying to control the way things were perceived.
yeah, I think that they need to. There's no reason, in my opinion, to tell us when we aren't allowed to talk about it. If you're gonna tell us, tell everyone.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. Like I almost don't see the point of that server, to be honest.
Well,
Where
Ghost Gaming says too, like there's barely anything that ever happens in there.
yeah,
And
it's-
other
so it's like-
creators have covered it before, so he felt like he could do that.
yeah, and so that right there is the point that where I can somewhat see what they are going for with. I do think if you, as much as this is a really insignificant thing for him to share, I'm not mad at Ghost for sharing it. I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a little bit of information. I think that they should stamp that out, because then otherwise people, then where do you draw the line? Because then they could share something massive with us, and if they didn't, give Ghost a slap on the wrist, I could just be like, well, they've just told us that we're getting.
The
season
thing is, though,
12,
the way they handled
so why
it.
can't I share that? Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the issue that I have, is that one, the way they handled it, but also and we'll get to this afterwards. But the kind of like kicking him while he was down part was not on for me, because I don't know if you've heard about that part, but pretty much they almost tried to like pin the negativity from the community on Ghost and say like, oh, because you shared that screenshot, like that's now ruined all the goodwill that we had with the community.
One tweet ruined, what did they say, months of goodwill.
Yeah, so that there is what I really very much disagree with.
Yeah.
The whole thing of, I'm not the lawmaker, so I don't know what the right decision is there. With him getting banned, if that was it, if he just got banned and that was it, I don't want that, because he's a good creator and I don't want people getting banned from it. But I think
The problem is they didn't give him a warning. They just were like, yo, you're kicked, bro. They didn't even like talk to him about it.
The thing with that though is that it is an NDA server, so like that is known when we join, and I can see where they're coming from. It's like if you sign an NDA and then you breach NDA, generally you just get banned like that. So I can see it. I don't necessarily agree with it, because I think, like you said, I think if it was me, I would love to have gotten a warning and said like you can't do that.
Or even just
if you do it again,
even if you are
banned.
banned, like I still feel there should have been some level of discussion and feedback around that. Like, hey, you are getting let go, but this is why, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But no, he just got kicked.
Well, I think him and Stratford had have spoken about it. So I think there would have been some level. I don't think he just got kicked and they haven't spoken to him since. But
well, they've definitely spoken to him now, because he made such a big deal out of it.
Yeah,
which is fair. I think it's perfectly
to be fair,
fine.
their own fault. Yeah, because like it just should have been handled better.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just like a mess on both sides. I think that I do think at the end of the day he did do the wrong thing in sharing that.
Yeah,
which is a mistake. It's not
which
even
he's
I'm
admitted
not
to
saying that. Yeah, it sounds like I'm saying that like, oh, he's an idiot. Like it's a mistake. Like it's very easy to forget in that server that it is NDA'd, because we signed those NDAs years ago. So it's actually easy. It's just a Discord, and you just go like, oh, they talked about this, so I guess I can talk about that.
Yeah.
So it's an easy mistake on his end, and I don't look at him and go, oh, he was trying to get clout or something, because he definitely wasn't. He just saw the clarification, and in his next news video, he just covered it. On the flip side of that, I can see other people have been banned from the Creator Network for doing stuff where it's like, yeah, I kind of get it. I think that they could have handled it better, and I know if it was me and I just got kicked, I would be annoyed as well. But I do, yeah, I just see the fact that it's an NDA server, and if you break NDA, that's just how it goes, unfortunately. So it's just a bad situation. Like,
yeah,
I think they have definitely not handled it well, but also the other point that I kind of almost agree with them on is that, like I said, if they don't ban people for, or like, I don't know if ban is the right thing, but if they don't somewhat punish people for leaking stuff, not that that was even a worthy leak in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then where do you draw the line of, okay, well, he didn't get in trouble, so I'm going to leak this next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes this snowball effect of like people then just sharing a bunch of stuff that they shouldn't be sharing. Eventually one person will get in trouble because they'll go too far, but then why don't all the other people get banned? And it just creates this like really weird dynamic. I've actually seen it with Survivor, for example, where we were told not to share certain things, and then I'm not going to name names, but X person shared certain thing,
yeah,
and the rest of us were like, what the hell? Like, how can he talk about that and we can't? And they didn't slap him on the wrist, so we were all like, well, can I talk about it now or not? And then they're like, nah, you can't. So it just creates a weird dynamic of pretty much everyone else who's under the NDA not knowing what they can and can't do, and everyone gets kind of annoyed at each other, and it breaks the trust within the server. So
yeah,
like I said, I don't think I agree with the ban. I think I don't want him banned. I think that's stupid. But I also I just can see where they're coming from, where it's like,
well, I think
you break the rules, you get banned. That's kind of the extent of it.
The key thing with this game in particular, the reason that the person didn't get slapped on the wrist around Jedi Survivor, they knew the game was going to be perceived well. They knew what they were making was great, and they knew whatever was released, whether or not it released in the same timeline or whatever, they knew things were going to get out. But they invited X person. They probably knew they were already going to leak something. You can't have a bunch of content creators in one space and not have stuff slip through the cracks. It happens every time that you do that. Even if you give people approved gameplay, that could include something that technically they're not supposed to talk about in the NDA, but it was included in the hard disk drive or whatever. There are things that are going to slip through the cracks. The difference is how DICE runs as a company when it involves anything with the community. Their community management, the community managers themselves, I think have done a great job. I have yet to see anything specifically incredible when it comes to Stratford, but that's not dependent on him as a person. He's just trying to do his job. And there are so many other things outside of what we see him doing. He could technically be community managers, but he's also in charge of making sure 5 other people get their job done that we never see, which takes away from his quote-unquote title. That's something that happens all of the time. You technically have this responsibility, but on top of that, you're also doing 2 or 3 other people's jobs just because of, one, community manager. That whole region of the game industry is severely understaffed as well as underappreciated in most cases. And we've seen a level of burnout and burn through when it comes to DICE in particular, when it comes to Battlefield, when it comes to Battlefront. We've seen some turnover when it comes to that handling of things. So there's that side of things. You also have their fear and their hesitance when it comes to anything Battlefield related right now, because of the poor perception, because of the amount of scrutiny that they're facing from EA, from the community, from the players, all across the board. There's a level of expectation when it comes to these things. And I think the third thing we have to be aware of is they knew the backlash for this was going to be big because they announced it on a tweet. And I think the most ironic thing is he got banned for telling everyone you can't ban people in Battlefield groups.
Yeah, it is ironic that he got kicked when they are not having a kick feature in the Scots.
Which they knew, and it was shown as a feature, but they didn't have the foresight, or they may have had the foresight, but they didn't have the will to quote unquote ruin 3 months of community goodwill. But if your goodwill is so dependent on not releasing bad news, don't do the bad news or own it. Tell everybody. That's the thing that really gets me with this situation. I know he broke NDA. I know that all of this happened. The real thing that really broke him was he showed the screenshot in his YouTube video. That was screen capped and put into the Reddit. And that is where they found him out. And everyone started attacking Stratford, which is what the Battlefield community does so many times, as they single out the individual developers or people on the team, community managers, whoever it is, they single them out and they bring a level of scrutiny to that person that, one, they're, again, on their own personal accounts. Two, they're working on a very large brand where they don't have the freedom to reply or necessarily the support to be able to do something like that. And Battlefield fans are quite aggressive when it comes to things along these lines. So there's so many different levels on top of the. I totally understand respecting the NDA. I totally understand that, but you have clear cases of other people who have broken NDA, who may have been there a short amount of time. That's the thing that's crazy. Is they're freaking about goodwill. The fact that they banned a content creator who's been covering the game for the last decade, banning him, kicking him out of the creator thing, creating this huge controversy around that fact, that's getting rid of way more goodwill than anything else they've done.
Yeah, that for me is the whole thing was a mess, and it was just kind of like, I don't know, like I said, I could see both sides of it until that point, but the way that they handled him exiting and pretty much almost blaming it on him makes me lose any, like I said before, I can see where they're coming from, but after that I can't, because they're like making it as if this is all his fault, when, like I said, he broke the NDA and that is just a mistake, and that's an unfortunate situation, and that did lead to Stratford copying a lot of flack because people had seen his reply, but that isn't like Ghost's fault in terms of he didn't tell those people to go do that, and he didn't ruin the goodwill, but they have now like pinned that on him. Mm-hmm. And when I say they, and I'm not trying to pin this on Stratford, it was him who said it. It wasn't Kevin. It wasn't any of the other community managers. It was Stratford who said it. So I think when it's one person, I can't pin it on all of DICE or all of EA.
Yeah.
It was his mistake to say what he said. So just the same way, I don't think Stratford's a bad person. I don't think he is trying to, like, I don't know, be mean to Ghost. I think he then also just made a mistake that I bet right now he's probably saying, I wish I didn't say that. But he did, unfortunately. So it's just I don't know, man. It's a very frustrating situation because it's like we were getting to such a good spot and then this just implosion happened out of absolutely nowhere. I don't know where any of this came from. Like, it was just... Yeah. I didn't feel like there was any tension between the community and the devs in this game. Obviously, without... Like, there's the exception of always there's some bad eggs, and then there's always criticism, which isn't even a bad thing. But it was never like... There wasn't like a war going on. Whereas right now, like, the community is at war with DICE.
Yeah.
Out of absolute thin air. Like, this just went bang. We all now hate each other. And it's like, what the hell? How has this happened?
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing is it started from them sharing freaking video of a piece of content we're not actually getting. Uh-huh. So, like, I don't know how many times DICE can do that. I know you know the one I'm referring to in the Battlefront.
What do you mean? That's just speeder bike, whatever it's called. Environmental clutter. I
don't get how things can slip through the cracks so easily, constantly. I can get it if it's just like a once in a blue moon thing, but it's like so often with DICE. And the unfortunate thing is this all stemmed from that, because if they didn't leak that themselves, Ghost wouldn't have asked the question, he wouldn't have shared the screenshot, he wouldn't be banned. The only thing that would have happened would be the Enders stuff, and like I said before, I think the Enders stuff, even though I think the way they handled that doesn't even make any sense to me. How is he game account banned, but I can like get that. It's like whatever. He's been very toxic towards a lot of people.
But like officially, he has no. Like it's so weird. Like on the one hand, officially he broke no rules. He did nothing wrong, and you're like, okay, we can kind of see that. But it makes absolutely no sense and shouldn't have happened. It shows like how buddy things are and how. I'm gonna say this way, but I don't believe it this way of how like hurt Dice is when it comes to the community
they seem
around.
Very fragile.
Yeah,
like
it's like right out of a breakup. Like, don't play that one song, otherwise I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they. I think they can take criticism. I've seen a lot of people say like, oh, they don't know how to take. I think they can because they look at all the games that they have fixed in the past. They can't do that without the criticism and the feedback. But it's like the slightest bit of like aggressive criticism. It's like it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
Of like,
I'm on a knife's edge, buddy.
Is like
push me too far.
All it could be is like, genuine criticism, blah blah blah. This game sucks, and that one little bit at the end, this game sucks. They just like they get really hurt about that.
You want to get wild? Let's get wild.
It's bizarre. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on, but it's a very just unfortunate situation for everyone involved. I'm not even like picking sides. I think everyone involved.
You're all wrong.
Probably hating this because I'm sure Stratford would be hating what's going on. I know for a fact Kevin is not happy with how this is all panned out. And I think obviously Ghost and Enders and the community are not happy either.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of annoying that no one wants this and yet it is it's happened. So it's just, I don't know. It's a shocking situation to be in, to be honest.
Yeah. But I think the gold lining is they don't necessarily use the EA Creator Network for Battlefield really anymore. So he's not missing out on a whole lot.
Yeah.
They didn't utilize that massive resource before the game came out, and they haven't necessarily utilized it all that much except for some rare cases since then. So he's not necessarily missing out on anything, but it just shows how disconnected DICE is from their actual community of players and the people that are automatic pre-orders when it comes to the game. Yeah.
And it's also, it is, now that I think of it, when you said that, it is a weird thing to actually do, to ban him. Because it's like, what are you banning him from, actually?
Yeah. You don't get to see the one message we send every 4 months anymore.
Yeah, it's like, they've been so, because when, I think it was around the time the game launched, maybe, there was like a genuine leak that happened in there. And so they've pretty much like shut it down. Like they've removed the announcement channel, because we used to get, I don't know how much I can go into because obviously it is NDA, but they would often tell us things before they happen. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
And then they just shut that down completely. And since then, really, there's been like nothing that has, there's a constant discussion in there, but it's not, there's no news. It's just like, it's just a place to talk to them and have direct line of communication, which is still a good thing, but it's like, to ban him from that, but then I bet if he messaged them on Twitter, they'd still respond. It's also like, what's, like, has he actually been banned then? Because he's not really losing anything. So yeah, that is a good point, that it does still suck for him, but it's also, if there's any good side to it, he's not really losing that much, because they have just completely mismanaged the Creator Network. It is essentially pointless from my experience in there. The stuff that I got to do pre-launch wasn't even through the Creator Network. It was just, I had people that I knew at EA who, they went like external on the Creator Network, so that I know people who are in the Creator Network who didn't get to play early, and I know people who aren't in there who did get to play early.
Yeah. So, like, just as a little background color on this, so it was originally called the Game Changer Program, and it was a way for DICE to utilize key content creators to get feedback and basically be like a conduit for the community. So all of these content creators all these content creators have their communities, they get feedback, and then those people, as well as giving feedback from their experience, would go to DICE and they'd play the game early in a beta state or an alpha state and say, hey, this is what I think needs to be changed, or these controls don't feel very good. But they also had third-party PR groups, as per usual. You work with those people to reach New York Times game departments and Bloomberg game department. They're not going to be in the creator network. That's not accurate. That's not something that they fit into the bucket of. They would be on the press side of things. And on the press side of things, you have usually an agent that would talk and have contact information, as well as knowing what events are going on. They would go and say, hey, New York Times, hey, Bloomberg, this thing's happening. We have an invite to this. They want us to cover this, whatever. So they have these different things, as well as different levels of QA testing. A lot of the times they'll have open betas, closed alphas, all that stuff. So they have different levels and tiers of feedback gathering sources. When they went to the EA Creator Network, it was supposed to be an opening of the floodgates, opening a more diverse variety of content creators. But I don't know anyone, besides a couple people, and I know the only reason that they're in there is because they know someone at EA.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who has submitted when they've opened up the floodgates and gotten in. I've done it a few times for the Star Wars channel. I know we have the largest gaming Star Wars podcast in terms of reach and scope, and the fact that we're literally the only one, really, and we haven't gotten in there. As I don't know of many podcasters that have gotten in there, and I don't know of anyone that has gotten past that level. And honestly, I don't care. I think our coverage benefits less on the fact of getting things early. I would much rather be able to cover a leak than actually be held to an NDA release date, honestly. As much as people in the content creators hate that. I know Azatrue is a firm believer and hater of people who break NDA or give leaks and stuff. Like, he cannot cover it because he's under NDA. But me, as an independent content creator, I can cover it all I want to. And he misses out on those views, which is, it's honestly, I understand the disgust of it, but that's just how things work. You can either play one game or you can play the other game. You can't play both of them. But there's a level of the EA Creator Network that is almost like the good old boys. Like, they are, if you know someone in EA, you can get in.
Yeah. I know many people in there that I'm like, they don't even make content. They just are in the server. It's like, what? Like, and it's, I don't say it as like a rude thing of like, oh, you should.
Good on you.
I'm more
That's
just
great.
Like, what the hell? Like, why are you in there? But also, like, go for your life. If you're invited, go for your life. I don't care.
Yeah. So I think there's a conflict there. And when J-Dot was in charge of it, I felt like there was a lot more direction when it came to what that was, because he knows how powerful content creators and influencer marketing is. It is the fastest growing way to market in 2022 and 2023. Influencer marketing is the most effective, but you have to nourish that. And you have to be heavily involved in that process. You need to have discussions with your content creators. You need to be a resource for them to utilize. So you don't have Ghost Gaming who says, oh, I'm pretty sure I can release this.
Yeah.
Stratford, Kevin, they don't have the resources available to them because they are like community managers. They are not EA content partners or creator network partner managers. They aren't that resource.
It needs to be like an actual person who's in charge of Battlefield creator network team. Like, to make that and look, maybe that's there's not enough work to give someone that role, but like spread that role.
There can be.
Give someone that role and then let them do something else that's a bit minor and they can focus on that or whatever. Like, it's the way it is all run is mostly just confusing. They've got a really good, like, the foundation of it is if they start to use it, it's
they
not
have
like
the
it's
idea.
Ruined.
Idea is perfect. Like, they need to just execute it well. They need to be like, let's just say you're covering a bit of content for Battlefield, and you're like, okay, I think this was mentioned at some point, but I don't know quite if it's true. I don't necessarily want to cover a hardcore leak because that could damage my relationship with the EA Creator Network. I need someone I can reach out to. You can't reach out to Stratford because he's in Sweden and you're in Australia. You can't reach out to Kevin because he's in the UK, and you can't reach out to anyone in the US until it's after like work hours. You need to have an available resource in your area and to be and also offer you feedback like, hey buddy, this is what we're going to be trying to do. We're launching a strategy that is bringing more content creators or people around this one specific topic. You can say, yes, you're going to get in, you're going to get coverage. We'll provide you some gameplay, and we'll provide you some tips and tricks. Like, these are some of the most successful things that we've noticed on other content creators' channels. Here you go. That's how you do it. Yeah. But it takes a lot of planning, effort, and execution on that. And it's hard. And like I said before, community management is a very underutilized and underappreciated, underfunded, and understaffed part of the gaming industry. But it is one of the most important parts of the gaming industry, even if it's quote unquote not real development. It is almost as important as the new feature you're bringing is how people interact.
I would argue, like person for person, it's the most important role in the company outside of, like, say, like Vince Zampella and those. But like Kevin, this sounds like disrespectful to the developers. Kevin, as an individual,
where Kevin stands,
is more
okay.
is more important to this franchise than any one developer. Because that is, and again, no disrespect, that is just a developer. They just work on like a part of the game. He covers the entire community. Same for Stratford, same for all the community managers across every game. They are, like, pound for pound, the most important in the whole team. But a lot of people do give, you're not a real dev, you don't know, blah, blah, blah. Like, they get a lot of, it's probably going to be one of the most unforgiving roles in all of gaming. And yet, it's probably one of the most important as well. So, it must be tough for them. And that's why I think like it shouldn't be on them to handle that. They should be involved in it because they should be involved in every facet of the community. Yeah. But they shouldn't be running it. And that's why I think it's been kind of just lackluster because, they just haven't done anything with it. It's every time there's like an update. When the first few seasons were dropping, I think it was only people, it might have been the US as well, I can't remember, but it was either just Europe or either Europe and the US that were getting like the early playtests to show off the map early, and everyone else in the Discord was like, what, like, why didn't we get an invite? Like, why are you not, there's like hundreds of us here, why are we not getting this opportunity? And there was never any clarification and stuff like that. If they just straight up said, unfortunately this is only for these people and whatever, like, people would understand it. But they would just be like, it's almost like they have little boys clubs within the boys club. Like, Creator Network is almost like
a clique
a
within
boys
clique.
club. Yeah, but then inside of that, they then sneak off and do something and don't tell other people, and it's just like all very confusing. So even if you're in, like, I'm in it and I still don't really know what it is, that is obviously not a good sign because it means they're not really running it properly. And it just for me, it's almost like, why is it even there at the start of, the first thing first? Why is that there if you're not going to use it properly? And then why ban Ghost from it if it's not even a thing? Like, it may as well not even exist.
They're not going to release any more content in that Discord anymore.
Yeah, and so that's the other thing is, like, so they've now banned him, and then all of us are probably going to lose out on, we won't get any discussions with them and stuff. So why ban him if you're not going to share anything else that he could leak? If he's this supposed leaker, why even ban him? Like, and then all the rest of us suffer for that too. So it just, it's all being handled so, like, I don't even know if I want to say poorly. Just like, it's just confusing. Like, the decision making is like, what is the logic behind any of these decisions?
Yeah.
The same with the Enders one. Like, I do think that the way I'm sure they feel the need to, like, give him a slap on the wrist because he has been pretty toxic to a lot of people.
Yeah. That's not going to change anything with him. Like, he's just going to use it to fuel his own, like, new content. Like, he's got a whole new community now that you banned him.
Yeah.
I think he's getting like
And it's
5,000 more subscribers.
Yeah, so it's more the decisions and the logic behind the logic behind the decisions that they're choosing to make. It's like, I don't know, man. Just what is going on internally?
It's so fascinating because this is like a rare look at like how DICE handles real-time updates, and we see that they don't handle it very well. And not they don't quite, they react purely on like feeling versus like what's best for Battlefield and the Battlefield community.
That's a real they react on emotion when it's a company. They shouldn't do that. I do understand that, say, like Stratford and Kevin as individuals, they have feelings. So, of course, they're going to have a gut feeling straight away. If they thought he should be banned, that's what they would want to do. But they should be stepping back and going... And, like, those decisions, do not ever make them on the spot. Like, you got to put a couple days of thought into that, talk to a bunch of people, have a meeting internally with the community team or whatever, and really flesh it out. You don't just go, like... I guess he broke the rules, so like I'll just ban him. Like that almost feels like how it went. It was like, I guess he broke the rules. So let's just kick him out of the server. And it's like, you can't do that. You've got to. There cannot be emotion, which is it's easier said than done. When you are a human, you have emotions, but they need to like. That's why having a team is important, because it kind of removes emotion, because it's a bunch of people. It's more of a machine than a person.
Yeah.
When it's just one individual, it's not possible to do that. So yeah, I couldn't agree more with the way that you said that. Like the entire company seems like it reacts on emotion when it just shouldn't. You look at like Activision and Call of Duty, they don't care what the community says, which is almost in its own way. It's got its own issues there, but like people can say anything and they'll just be like, I don't care, like we're doing this and that's what we're doing. And that's almost, they need to find that balance of like having sympathy for the community, but like sticking to a more structured approach, I guess.
And it's totally fine to have that very personal perspective on how things are handled, but you need to be consistent. Like if you're going to do stuff like this, you need to be using the Battlefield official channel to discuss why and how and what can you as a content creator be prepared to talk about. Use the Battlefield communications account to have those discussions, or act like a big boy company and talk, like have a strategy, utilize the resources that you have as a gigantic company that you are as EA, DICE, and Battlefield, and realize that any action that you have with the community will either have positive or negative repercussions. And if you don't talk to your community, that is inhibitly a negative reaction. If you don't talk to your community, it's bad. If you do things bad and then still don't talk to your community about those things, also bad. But if you can have a clear line of communication, clarity on what can and can't be done, as well as consistency over those actions, I think that's where you succeed.
Yeah. And like the whole thing with how this started, where, like I said, we're getting clarity in the Discord. If exactly what Stratford said was a tweet, none of this would happen, because it would have been public. So why not say that publicly? Like they had the kick and ban thing, and then it turns out it's not happening. Everyone deserves to know that, not just the Creator Network members. Everyone deserves to know why that, what the issue was there. So tweet that. Don't tell us in the Discord and then get mad when, to be fair, like he broke the rules, he shared the content, but why are we even finding out if we can't share it? Why tell us? Like, what's the point? Literally, what's the point? I don't need any information that I find out that I can't actually tell anyone. I may as well get brainwashed and forget it, because there's no point in knowing that. So either tell it publicly or don't tell us either. Don't tell us in the Creator Network. It's got to be one or the other. Certain things I can understand. If it's like they're going to tell us that there's season 6, 7, and 8 is confirmed before everyone else, and they want us to like cover it how they should be using the creator network. That type of thing, fair enough. But there being an issue in the community and then it being clarified internally in a Discord server, but we're not meant to tell anyone, so why do we know? It's just all handled so poorly. Where literally, firstly, don't share the kick and ban thing in a video, and if you do, own that mistake and tweet something like, in the recent video we shared, there was a kick and ban feature. We want to clarify that won't be making it to the game for this, and this reason. Done. None of this happens. But no, they had to share it in the Discord, where we can't talk about it anyway, and then someone has been kicked. So it's actually baffling, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yep, it is what it is.
Man, I've been saying that a lot over the last 3 years. Since COVID hit, I swear I just say that like 5 times a day.
You either have the choice of going to therapy or saying it is what it is. And it is what it is a lot cheaper than therapy.
Yep. Yep.
Go to therapy, people. But yeah, it's an interesting time. I'm going to be very fascinated with how they end up, or even if they do address these decisions, and what that's going to be like for the Battlefield community. And yeah, it's going to be quite the time. And we didn't even get a chance to talk about the a completely new direction for Battlefield news, but we'll have to save that for next episode because we packed a lot into this one.
Yeah, it honestly made me forget like everything else this week. It was just like such a turbulent situation that there was also the news about season 5 and stuff, and I just don't really care. Like it's just all so it's just a shambles, and it makes it hard to like care about that stuff. It makes me hard to be excited about the game when there's all this other drama. I don't like drama. I don't like when there's all this stuff going on. It can be interesting to watch, but it's like still just because it's interesting doesn't make it good. So it's just like I don't know. They've like almost killed their own hype leading into season 5 now. Or if, in their words, I guess it was Ghost Gaming that killed the hype. But
yeah, man, you got to get it right. Apply the blame where it's deserved.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a shame on that side of things that I was going to make a video on the season 5 changes, and then I literally recorded it, and then all this happened, and then I was like, what's the point in even uploading that? It's like completely irrelevant now. Like no one cares because they've just caused all this other drama. So
who's gonna like, even as a regular player, you have the fear of getting banned. Like it, whether or not you probably will never get banned just as an individual player, but the fact that these big people can get banned, you're like, okay, maybe I won't play this game. I'll go over to Call of Duty.
That's my issue with it, with the Enders stuff, in that, like, the thing that I know I won't get banned is because I don't carry myself the way that he does, where he's very, like... He can be quite toxic towards certain people. I know I don't do that, but also, like, what if I just make a negative video and then my account gets banned? How do I know that? Now I don't know if that will happen or not. Yeah. I'm obviously pretty certain it won't, but I don't know. Before this, I did know. Now I'm not so sure. So it's just like... Yeah, it's all just... Everything is, like, up in the air at the moment. I think they need to just, like... There needs to be some sort of, like, statement or something to just, like... There needs to be a bit of closure or like, reverse the things. Like, don't ban Ghost and unban Enders and just say, look, sorry, we made a mistake, and then then it's all just done, and I'm sure people will still be angry, but it's kind of forgiven at that point. But the way that it is right now, it just feels unresolved, and if they just let it go, if we just forget about it, I feel like there's just always going to be that tension there. And we've already got enough tension from the past. We don't need more. It's like there's already baggage in this franchise, and this is just like adding more baggage, and it's we definitely don't need that.
Yeah, too much drama for my llama, as they say. But with that, Thank you all for listening to this episode of The Battlefield Show. Greatly appreciate all of you for listening. Check out Sammy's channel and all of our Star Wars content as well if you're into that. As always, we'd like to thank Ethan Clark for the beautiful thumbnail, all of you for listening, and we'll see you on the battlefield.